waiting, I don't know.
We can give 1 more minute, and we thought maybe while in this first minute that we are settling down and starting our morning, how about if you put your chat in the chat where you are calling from? And the question is, have you experienced transformation in your life? Something that you call transformation? What is the one word that you think represent the transformation you went through? If you just can put in the chat and we start to dive into the topic of today.
So what's the question, Valeska? Have you
experienced transformation in your life? And what is one word that represents that transformation?
I love the words. Transformation was freeing, growth, reinvention, awakening, awareness, new me, perspective, authenticity, liberating, new life.
It was hard to find one word.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, because it also takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage. It's so much easier to be with what you know.
True. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And welcome, everyone. I don't know, should we start or?
Yes, absolutely. I'm with you.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon for those of us that are in Europe. And thank you. Thank you for joining us for this very special conversation around the world transform. You know that this year, International Coaching Week has chosen as a theme, Inspire, Transform, Thrive, 3 words. And when organizing this week, I felt that it was important to honor those 3 very large, grand words, and with a morning panel conversation, reflection. So it's true that transformation is a word that we often use in our work, but what does it really mean? And so I was reflecting on it, and I did some research to see what are different philosophers, intellectuals, like how did they define transform? And I just took some quotes that I felt can bring this conversation and open this conversation before I present each speaker today. James Baldwin says that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So transformation begins with the willingness to confront reality, right? In a way. Another one that says Carl Jung is one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So in order to transform, we have to tap into our unconscious and in our dark side. Another one is Peter Senge that says that personal transformation can and does have global effects. as we go, so goes the world. And I thought it's beautiful because, and this is what we do in our job, and that makes it so amazing, is that when we help someone transform, automatically their external environment transform, and the people around them also transform. So there's this ripple effect that makes this transformation even, I don't know, energetically bigger. So I have a lot of questions for you today, like how do we know transformation has occurred? How do we measure when it's very often invisible, right? And is it always a grand event, or can it be something that can be found in smallest moments of awareness? And can the word transform have a negative connotation, or it's only positive? To answer those questions, I have invited 4 amazing women that I think live and breathe transformation through their work and their life. Before being coaches, they are women. So I have invited Liesbeth. Hi, Liesbeth.
Hi, Nada. Hi, everyone.
So Liesbeth is a certified professional coach and expert in cross-cultural communication, global leadership, and expat coaching. We also have Korrey. Hi, Korrey.
Hello, everyone.
So Korrey is a seasoned occupational therapist and certified coach with nearly 30 years of experience in integrating physical rehabilitation, mental health, and positive intelligence to empower and transform her clients, particularly those with facial paralysis. With us also today is Dr. Loubna. Hello, Loubna. I'm so happy.
Hello, good morning or afternoon.
Is the founder of Mind Market, a boutique firm that partners with CEOs to grow confident leaders and high-performing teams that can tackle any challenge. And finally, with us is Judy. Hello, Judy.
Hello.
Welcome, Judy. Judy is an executive coach, a poet, and shepherdess. Do we pronounce it shepherdess? Okay. Bringing clarity to life at the intersection of business, poetry, and the natural world, a meaning maker of what is essential, transforming, and enduring. And to open our conversation today, Judy has, Judy is generous enough to read us one poem that she has written about the word transform and what happens in in the transformation process. So whenever you're ready, Judy, we are all yours.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I want to start with just a small quote by a friend of mine. And he said this. He said, "Poetry is a disruptive invitation." It's a disruptive invitation. So this morning, when I read this poem, there could be in it something disruptive. In other words, that kind of gets your attention in maybe not the way that you might have expected. It catches us off guard. It disrupts us from the normal way that we live and think and work. And it asks us to come in and see something new about ourselves. And it often uses words that draw us to a place that is maybe unusual or more spacious or open or peaceful. So I hope that this poem is disruptive and also invites you to a place that's brings you greater awareness of who you are and how you might transform. This poem is called Piece by Piece, and I wrote it and reflecting just my own journey. So perhaps it will speak to you also. Piece by piece, you took me apart, piece by piece. You lay me out, and I didn't even know it, each part in its own place, a passing tribute to what was. You took me apart, and now that I think about it, I could feel the tugging and the twisting, the secured grip and the last pull, releasing the most stubborn of pieces. And now I scan the landscape from a further, more distant view. Looking over my shoulder, I see the meticulous choosing of order and time. I know that I must have missed those parts of me, but now in this more forward-reaching frontier, they seem inconsequential. And then, like the humble farmer, you dropped a seed in the dark, unoccupied hollows, right into the soil of my suffering. And there, the seed found its purchase, and like springs unfolding, the resurrection began.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Judy.
You're welcome.
So, do you feel that poetry allows you with your client to tap into the unconscious in an untraditional way, let's say, that we do in coaching? How does it help the clients transform when you use poetry?
Yes, absolutely. I think, poetry uses metaphor, and often I think we, when we're facing the things that are most difficult for us, a place where we really do need to change, and that takes a lot of energy and awareness and time, that we often can't go right into that space. It's too vulnerable. And so poetry acts as a safe place, sort of off to the side, where I can take somebody in their mind and they can live in that space there, and they can let those words sort of speak right into the heart of who they are, but it's not really them, or at least they don't feel like it's them. And so they can do some work there and feel safe and open and vulnerable, because they're within the poem. And then I can gently kind of draw them back to kind of asking them questions from maybe what they understood about the poem, to then kind of in a sneaky sort of way ask them, how did that poem speak to you? And then where did you see yourself there? And then what phrases stood out for you? And if they begin to start to talk about things like, oh, I felt that peace when you talked about someone dropping a seed into the soul, into the hollows of my, suffering. They say, and then I can ask, well, tell me a little bit more about that. So it catalyzes, I think, conversation in vulnerable, less able to enter places, and it, I think, accelerates it because it's through something that's not so closely held to themselves.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you anymore. Sorry, I couldn't hear what you were saying at the end.
Yeah, that's
I'm
okay.
sorry,
So
Judy.
yeah, I was just talking about, just in a nutshell, sort of how a
sure.
poem. Did you hear that part, Nada?
How the poem, what I understood is that you help your clients like disengage emotionally by writing a poem. It allows them to see things in a different, like it's not them
Yes.
anymore. So
Yes.
it taps into the creativity, which allows them to have this distance and then come back into it and reflect back with their situation and their struggle, right? This is what I got, and then I was cut.
Yeah, well, you caught it. That's it.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you so much. This is so interesting. What about you, like Korrey, when it comes to your work with people facing such difficult, like when it comes to a physical transformation, how do you help them cope when they're facing this kind of internal but also external change or transformation?
Sure.
Mm.
Thank you. And Judy, I actually want to speak to the seed in your poetry, because that's really what we're doing. I can speak for myself, and in my practice is that planting that seed and to turn, it kind of brings a spiritual thought to me about depends on the soil that is where that seed is planted is how that seed is going to grow, right? So for me, working with people with facial paralysis, if they really want to kind of navigate this really challenging time, it's going to depend on their soil and how they approach their situation. Are we approaching it from really our negative thoughts and feelings and emotions, or can we start to allow things in that can nurture that seed and grow and transform? And so for me, really being in the state of being is so important. And that's really how I help my clients transform, is understanding the importance of being before doing, getting really mindful, getting out of all of those thoughts that are disruptive to us and are not helpful, especially when you're navigating a life-altering diagnosis like facial paralysis, so that that seed can grow and you can approach things from a different vantage point, not from those negative thoughts that are just constantly consuming you. But when we get mindful and really present in the moment, it taps into the area of the brain that just allows us to think more clearly and make our medical decisions from a place that's a bit more wise, all right? That wise mind. So that's really how I work with my clients, is I really get them to detach from their emotions, become really, really present and mindful. And with that, the natural transformation occurs from a different headspace.
So when you say this is how the transformation occurs, so it's of course the internal transformation, as long as they decide to not to be thoughtful and like to be conscious of the thoughts that they're having and choosing, right? The thoughts.
Yes, being aware of your thoughts and not tying emotion to those thoughts, really trying to detach them from what they are thinking, because what they're thinking may not be based in fact. And so really getting them to understand what is factual, what is not, what are self-limiting beliefs, and then just kind of transforming them over time and with practice, because mindfulness, as we all know, it doesn't come easy. It's not natural. We're constantly in a state of thinking. But in order to move into that doing space, we have to get present and be open and not be driven from things that are not helpful or might not necessarily be true.
Yeah, it's and I see a sequence like with Judy saying that poetry helps her clients get detached emotionally and not be engaged emotionally, and then you saying, okay, when they are detached and when they can start to be detached of their emotion, then we also like both are very complete each other. That's what I mean.
I was actually, when Judy was speaking and talking about, getting the poetry, they're really getting in the present moment. And so they're not thinking. They're really engaging in an activity that's making them mindful, which then transformation sometimes starts to occur naturally when they're in that state of being. And so poetry, Judy, I think is a beautiful exercise and a beautiful way to encourage that mindfulness and start that transformation process.
Thank you, Korrey. What about you, Loubna? I'm curious because as you work with teams and CEOs, how do you see or how do you help or how transformation shows up when it comes to teams?
I love that question. Unfortunately, the way we work today and the way teams work that have been able to get to the top levels, the box that we create by the workplace culture they're in creates fake people. So I think transformation starts with authenticity, because the way the culture is placed today, you cannot be fully yourself at work. Like there's a blueprint, there's a default of who you need to be. And being you allows you to transform and to be much bigger than you think you are in the workplace. So being authentic in your expression. So the more I work, and especially now, I'm not sure if it's because it's just the clients I'm attracting or it's a world phenomena. There's a lot of conflict going on, and it all starts with being quiet when you see things go wrong, or quiet so that you do not show a lack of trust in the other person. So your body feels something is wrong. Your mind says, don't trust. And yet you continue to please because you want people through pain to believe that you trust them. So there's a lot of mistrust going on, and the ripple effect on people as you cascade the organization is more of silos, people hiding information and hoarding information that is called corporate intelligence, conflict, and also quiet quitting, which we've heard a lot. People that are authentically scared of instability and a lot of change and not enough formula and process, they do quit, and they quit quietly, and they go to places where they feel more safe. I think it starts with being authentic, if I had to go. And authentic means being able to, permitted to share your feedback, your opinion, without feeling like, oh my God, I just poked, a new letter in that blueprint that is created for me, and not being afraid to be who you are. I hope that helps.
Very much. And it made me think of, so as you were saying, that we're not our authentic self at work very much. In corporation, we tend to be someone else in order to feel that we belong. So, and I think I'm going to ask this question to Liesbeth, since you work with people that that starts a new life in new countries. So do we have, like, what is the role of belonging in transformation?
That's a great question. And if I may just first reflect back on what Loubna just said, it resonates so much with me because my clients are expats. So they are people who have made it to the higher levels in their corporate organizations, and they're being relocated to a different country with a different culture. And it's all about that authenticity. And so for my clients, they already don't fit the box of what it means to be a good manager or to be a good leader, because the definition of what it means to be a good manager or a good leader can vary, for different, in different parts of the world. So, and I think if you learn to create that awareness about, how you're different and, where the differences are, you can use it as an advantage, because people, they know you don't fit the box, so maybe you get a little bit more benefit of the doubt. I talk a lot about authentic adaptation. Yeah. And if we can tie this to belonging, right? And it's highly politicized today, unfortunately, this topic. But a lot of people who have, and I'm even thinking about politicians, in the US, in Europe. I can only speak for those parts of the world, but I'm sure it happens elsewhere too. The people who have the loudest opinions about, immigration and what it means to arrive in a new country and how you need to adapt, they don't have a clue of what they're talking about. And they expect people to pack their bags. For example, my clients all come to the United States. Yeah. So they pack their bags, they arrive in the United States, and then all of a sudden they have to assimilate and have to pretend to fit into that box of what it means to be a good leader in America. Whereas that is a complete unrealistic thing. I don't think it helps people to belong. So we work mostly on authentic adaptation and the fact that people are different. And a lot of these organizations attract talent from abroad because they are looking for these different perspectives and these different styles. So that cognitive diversity it has a lot of value. So what I invite my clients to do is, like, of course, like, get awareness first of, like, how am I culturally programmed, you know, from my experience in life? Some people are born in one place, some people have different cultures within, you know, their person. So what makes me, you know, what is like my cultural identity, and how does that show up, and how am I being perceived? And then the question is, like, well, in every situation, every unique situation, ask yourself the question, when do you get the better results faster? When you do it their way, when you do step into that box, yeah, and you pretend to be that person, maybe a part of you will become a little bit, you know, more like what the box looks like. But there are other moments where you might get better results faster just because you don't fit that box and because you have a different perspective and a different way of doing things. And yeah, I think when it comes to belonging, I think we can only belong in a place when, as Loubna said, when we can show up to work as we are, right? And this is a little bit my frustration in my work. I usually only get to work with the expat. And when we talk about building bridges across cultures, well, that individual can only do so much, but there's also something that's required from all those people that neatly fit into that box to open their minds.
Yeah, it's definitely. So there's a big theme here that you're saying, and each one, like, we're circling and talking about, that is authenticity. So when we are authentic, then there is a transformation, or the fact that we are the authenticity allows us to transform in a more smooth or easier way, and when you say, for instance, that instead of being a culture fit and fitting in, let's maybe be a culture add, right? And be our true self and add to the culture that already exists and show up in a way that allows everybody to see you as an additional, on the contrary, being curious of what you're bringing versus coming from a place of lack and not knowing. And yes, definitely. I think I have a question to all of you around the authenticity. So, okay, let's say that us as coaches, we help. So our big role is to help our client to be authentic. And how do we bring them to their authenticity then? How do we help our clients identify their authenticity? And
Let's start with a simple premise, Nada, which is a lot of the struggle we have internally, we mirror up, right? So when I work with teams, I say, if this person is angry all the time, it's not about you, right? It's about themselves. It's a mirror of themselves. So when we start with authenticity, we're graceful enough to allow ourselves to come face to face of whatever that is causing us to be in pain or in judgment or in lack of curiosity or whatever it is that so it shows. And that when that happens, you become a lot more effective with others. So it is a way to be effective. That's one piece. One piece is that self-awareness that is huge, where we as coaches can make a big difference because we allow them to be in it. The second piece is in self-awareness is team awareness. I work a lot with organizations on team identity. What is this team's identity? I'm working with an incredible corporation in Miami, huge, and still that top team is so fake with each other, meaning conflict is put under the rug, a difficult conversation is not happening, it's like kind of played with, and it's just odd for me to see that at the top level. I was hired once because the CEO could not tell the VP to stop emailing her. And I'm not talking an easygoing CEO, I'm talking about a tough CEO. And I was hired so that the next level can stop emailing her so many times. And when you go deeper down into it, she had a soft spot for this VP. They were friends outside work, and she could just not come to tell her, stop emailing me. I'm grateful for these clients. I love them to death. They're the reason I have a home. And it would have been so much easier if we just know how to be more self-aware of what is it that's stopping me from being effective and helping me become, take over all these noise that we see and move forward. So when I hear the CEO of Microsoft talk about serendipity. Serendipity does not happen when we're fake. They asked him why was he so successful in the past 5 years, and he said serendipity, right? Serendipity comes when we're naturally inclined to be comfortable with ourselves and with others, so ideas spark, and you're not worried about judging yourself or judging others. And that's one part of being, that's where transformation happens. And when he was asked by the Harvard Business Mentor, with the one skill for leadership for this decade, the one skill, this is the guru of technology in the world, he said empathy. So the person interviewing him was not happy with that response. I could
Really?
tell from the face, right? He was not, he's like, no, I'm looking for more. So he asked him again, okay, that's the first, that's the top. What's the second? And he said, empathy. And then he asked him again, what's the third? He said, empathy. This was the only leadership skill that he thought was important. And the reason is when we have empathy, we can easily understand what's happening in front of us. They had a better understanding of what the client's needs are, what what's the transformation that is needed to take the workplace to the next level. And of course, they created teams because of it. So this is where I think humans are super emotional, and by force, in some cultures, you're not allowed to be emotional. But we are super emotional beings. And that's where transformation happens.
That's beautiful, Loubna. I love it.
Thank you.
Key concepts, really, those conversations are like it's philosophy, right? There's an infinite possibility of doors that we can enter. And my head is popping with so many ideas now. But to regroup, just to recap, there are words I'm going to send you. I loved the concept of authentic adaptation, Liesbeth. I think it's a great concept. The identity. So when we transform, we work on the identity part, the authenticity. We show up with a lot of empathy also as coaches, as leaders. This is a huge trait to have. But I have a question, how do we measure transformation? Is there a way, or do you see, or do you have, can someone share with us, maybe Korrey, or I don't know, a way that you were able to quantify or to identify the transformation? Because sometimes usually most of the time it is completely invisible, right?
It is. And I think sometimes as coaches, we can see transformation happening amongst our clients, but our clients don't always see it in themselves. And I just want to go back to something Loubna said about empathy. empathy for others and empathy for yourself too. Okay to make mistakes. That's how we grow. And a lot of us, we don't treat ourselves how we would treat others. And so having that empathy and being kind to ourselves and giving ourselves grace opens up to also being more empathetic to others as well. Because if we can give ourselves grace, we can give others grace. So I loved that, Loubna. But as for kind of measuring, I do use a tool to kind of, it's a client measurement tool, and it's self-assessment. Being an mental health occupational therapist, we use something called a COPM, which is a certified occupational performance measure. And when I'm working with clients and I identify their pain points, their problem areas, or I should say, they identify their own pain points and problem areas, and I just kind of listen and jot down. And through an interview process, I then have them rate on a scale from 0 to 10 how important each of those areas are and how they're affecting every aspect of their life. And so again, it's been being driven by them. Then I ask them how well they're performing in each of those areas on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being they're performing very well, 0, they're not performing at all. And then how satisfied they are with that performance. And this, again, it's a self-measurement. I'm asking the questions, but they're giving me their numbers. And I do this at our first coaching session, then again, 6 weeks after working with them, and again after 12 weeks. And so they reassess how they're doing, and then they can see on paper where their improvements are and where they still need to work on. And again, this is very kind of OT driven, and the fact that in the OT world we have to show improvement in order for insurance companies to reimburse. But it's really worked well in my coaching practice as well, as I kind of do a modified version of that. And when clients get to see, wow, I scored this on the beginning and now I've scored here. Like, yeah, I've seen it all along. I've seen your transformation, but now you can see it. There's this visual proof, and it's just been a beautiful way. And to see my clients, like, I may ask them those questions like, how do you feel you're transforming? Oh, or how do you feel you're doing? And they're just like, oh, I guess a little bit better. And then we pull out this assessment tool, and they're just like, wow, I really am. And now that you mention it, things are just kind of flowing a bit more naturally. I'm living in a bit more ease and flow. And that's what we want, is that ease and flow from our clients, because that's where we see that transformation. Does that answer your question, Nada?
Yes, definitely. I have this sheet, or I don't know how to call it, this tool that allows you to quantify and to have a before and after. Maybe we should create one for coaching and not only for OT.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Loubna, you had...
Yeah, I wanted to say that for all the coaches in the room and for all of us, it's very important to at least take note of where they're making progress. And one simple tool, Nada, like even if it's where are you at this time between 1 to 10 on certain things that they bring up at the very beginning. So in the introductory, you could start that by saying, where are you on this? Where are you on this? Like simple things that they bring up, because coaching is all about mirroring what's happening and validating. But one thing that has worked for me that could be helpful to all of you in the room is, let's say it's a 6 months agreement, or coaching work. Almost at the 2/3, I go over some of the things that we have progressed with, and very specifically, because as they grow, those moments or simple things that they used to struggle with has already passed. They forget about them. So I say, we started here, we went to here, and we went to here, and now we're here. And that awareness, that pause for them to consider their journey of transformation, truly makes them just go, whoa, I have done all that. So it's a moment to celebrate those wins, but in a way that you show the progress that you have seen. And it always excites them to want to do more before the end of the coaching. It works all the time. I have yet to see one person who said, no, I did not do any of that. Right? So just keep in mind as you go, like what I do is a chart with drawings of, okay, this was the main topic today. The next time it's this main topic. The third one is this. The fourth one is this. And then it gives me a visual that I can actually help them with. And it's truly emotional for them when that happens.
It
Right
makes
now.
me something that I use also that is very helpful before even like when sometimes I use is like a timeline reflecting on the past, even before building the future. Like what were the past events? So in your timeline, positive and negative, that were transformative, and what were the learnings? What is made you what you are today? And this helps also to see the evolution of the transformation. But yeah, it made me reflect on this. It made me think of this, Loubna. Thank you. I'm curious about you, Liesbeth, and I want to be mindful of the time because I want to allow other people also to speak. But Liesbeth and Judy, I'm curious about your clients. Like, do you see the transformation for you, Liesbeth? Like, is it about fitting in the culture and feeling themselves in another country? For you, Judy, how does poetry, metaphors help them also tap into their authenticity? Or like, how do you see the transformation within your work? So maybe we'll start with Judy and then Liesbeth.
Yeah, well, first of all the things that people have said are just so inspiring. So thank you. So I had one situation where we were actually in a large group, and they were being coached kind of by the group, and I was part of that. And the phrase that I kept hearing this person say was, it's much bigger than this. It's much bigger than this. And she kept kind of trying to move from, she was talking about like kind of where she was and where she wanted to go. And every time she would start to think about like putting words to the thing, it was just like, it's just bigger than this. And finally I just said, would you be okay if I brought a poem in right here? And she said, sure. And I said, this is a poem that is, you can walk away and having memorized it today, but it captures, I think, the most archetypal journey of the human being. And I'm going to say it to you twice because it is so short, but you will understand this. So I said to her, this is how the poem goes. A star, a tree, and the longing in between. A star, a tree, and the longing in between. And in that moment, the whole group just stopped, and there was just silence. And then she began to understand, as she took it in, that she was looking at something that she couldn't necessarily reach in this moment, but she had the capacity in her to kind of dream or feel that future state, but with, again, the obstacle of how do I get there? And so this image of being planted or grounded, and then yet seeing the star, was what we all understand, that there is a distance between where we are and where we want to go. But there's also an incremental way of getting there. And so to embrace the bigger and then to start close in and take that next step and be encouraged, it was like she relaxed because she understood that she was on the same journey that we're all on, and that she was holding something big that we all wanted to support her to find. But in this moment right now, she could have some peace and safety around the journey that she was on and could take. And so there was then a sense of both accomplishment as well as encouragement, and then sort of that distant horizon that intersects with our dreams and who we truly are, that we are going to somehow find. And we don't do that alone.
This is so beautiful, Judy. The metaphor with the star and the tree, it's something that I'm writing it because sometimes I need it. I mean, we all need that, right? To step back and reflect and just go back to the star and the tree.
Yes.
Star.
Yeah. Yes, it was written by a man named Gabriel Rosenstock, and it's in a beautiful book called The Longing in Between. It's a collection of sacred poetry, and it's very beautiful from all over the world by, and his name is Ivan Granger. So he translated this poem, which is so portable. And yeah, and you know what? I want to also just add the word hope. Hope. Like there's hope that I can actually get there. It just is restorative. We need that.
So true, because the hope is the driver of the transformation.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Judy. What about you, Liesbeth? Can you tell us your experience with a client?
Sure. Thank you, Judy, for yet another beautiful poem. I really appreciate these. They're so beautiful. So for me, I usually, when I work with clients, it's just over a set number of weeks. Yeah, so I don't get to see them in the really long term. Sometimes I do, but it's more rare. I always tell them like it's a process, you know, and you have to allow yourself time, right? For example, like there's a lot of non-Americans who have a hard time giving feedback like it's often given in the United States with a lot of superlatives. And I always tell them like, look, you don't have to pretend to be something that you're not, but like, you know, play with that awareness. And maybe a year from now, when we run into each other, you will be using these superlatives very naturally. So give yourself the time, give yourself the grace. I think where I see the progress in the short amount of time that we do get to work together is I see kind of like the resistance go down. And that resistance can have like many different layers. It could be the idea of a lot of people grow up in a country where everybody thinks their country is the best country in the world. So there's always this, you know, I mean, like accepting different perspectives. It can be hard, yeah. And it can also be scary. Like I usually see clients right before they move or right after they relocate. And I tell them, look, you know, you have accepted to start this adventure, and you have to know that this is going to change who you are, like on a very profound level. And for a lot of people, that is scary. And they feel then the resistance from their friends and family back home, because it's hard for people to see that, you know, somebody is changing, right? Because if you get exposed to all these different perspectives, different values, different ways of doing things that you weren't even aware of before, people start to realize, oh, well, actually, I prefer it this way. And then other things are just non-negotiable part of who they are, right? So yeah, I think that the resistance goes down. I see the judgment going down and the curiosity, you know, like increasing. Yeah, one of the side effects of that is also like that's usually where the trust with the people around them in their new location goes up, because they have learned to give them the benefit of the doubt. And they have learned that people have different definitions of what it means to be respectful, what it means to be polite, what it means that something is fair or unfair or right or wrong. And so you do see that stress levels go down those first weeks.
True, so true. I can see myself as being
Yes.
you're talking about. I'd like to open the conversation to other to all the guests that are here with us today. So please, if you have any like whether are questions or self or reflections or definition of transform that you'd like to share or client experience, please go ahead, Irina.
Hello, everyone. I would like, first of all, I appreciate for each word, yes, that we just discussed today. And this is so resonates to me because transformation is a really, really important topic, yes, to discuss nowadays, especially. And why it resonates to me? Because I'm expat, and thank Liesbeth for all you mentioned, for all you said, because this is really true, because I know what is it to be in another country, in a new country, to be expat and find yourself. So how it's difficult to find yourself again, you know, as a person, as a professional, as a human being, you know, because you're in different culture. So that's why I'm like each, Liesbeth, all your words, each word so resonates to me, you know. And I came from Toronto. Yes, I worked as a career coach, yes, life coach in a non-profit sector in Toronto. So, and I had a great success there. So it was my immigration. And then I'm here in US. This is my second immigration. Yes, that in a big country. Yes, and I would like to be the, you know, the coach, to be like, I'm happy to be in this community again. And for me, I would like to add about authenticity. Yes, that we just discussed. First of all, for me, it's a courage. You know, it's a huge courage to be fully yourself. Yes, and how you true to your true values. Yes, how when you are vulnerable. Yes, because you don't know anyone here. Yes, and this culture is really, really how to say, strange for you, that you need to adapt. Yes, so and for me it's very important living from your core, not from the conditioning. Yes, this is how owning your story without shame. So allow yourself to do mistakes. And the transformation, the question that we just discussed, how you measure your transformation, yes, success. So for me, it's very important that I see, for example, the client do mistakes and they don't react the same, yes, the same emotionally and those mistakes. So they say, that one, okay, I remember, so I move on. It means that's a huge success. It means that the client, the person just move on and ready to meet with fully yourself. Yes, with you know, with mistakes, with everything. That because we do all mistakes. So leading with heart. For me, it's very important. Leading with heart, not performance. Not to be the best for everyone, to community. Just be with your authenticity. Yes, especially always be networking, because networking in new country is very important. Yes, because you try to feel the culture, everything through people. Yes, through how they communicate, how they create this community. Yes, for example, it depends on some niche, yes, that you just go to. So, and it's very important to treat yourself. Yes, treat yourself during this way, because transformation, it's like, you know, the process. Yes, this is the process still all the time going through all our life. It's never stop. We always transform, always. Yes, and we need to be ready. Yes, just imagine that every step it's open best of ourselves. Yes, the best version of ourselves. So, and be proud each step. Be proud that, oh my god, I did this, so success. Anyway, if it's small step, be proud of yourself. For me, it's like to see in the clients, it's very important that they're proud. So this is what I would like to say. Thank you so much. This is really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Haddad, can I react to this?
Sure. I just wanted to say that your passion transpires through the screen, really. Go ahead, Liesbeth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Irina, for like sharing your perspective on this. And, you know, it just what I started thinking of is like, you know, a lot of people like ask me like, but then how do I stay authentic if I need to adapt? And I love that you said, like, just be authentically you. The only thing that is difficult with that, when you don't fit into the box, and we can teach our clients, like, hey, like, give people the benefit of the doubt, always start from the idea that they did whatever they did, said whatever they said, didn't do, didn't say, with the best intentions. So very often, like, what I tell my clients is like, yes, be yourself. We know there are a couple of pain points specifically between your way of doing things and their way of doing things where you might have to adapt. But very often, just making intentions explicit can be so helpful to just tell somebody, hey, look, I'm not from here and I'm still learning things. Please help me out here. And that is a very simple thing. And it takes a lot of courage, though, because for a lot of people, that is a very difficult thing to do. But again, like, and in a current climate that is so anti-immigration, it's hard not to fit the box, because we often, and I'm really not talking for myself, because I am the type of, immigrant that, kind of like still does fit in a box for a lot of people. But for a lot of my clients and a lot of people out there, that's a big problem, because a lot of people don't want to give us that grace. Yeah, and they don't want to give us the benefit of the doubt, and they're so quick to judge us. So making our intentions clear, to kind of like also make it clear to them that we're just trying our best here, and please give us some grace. Yeah. But thanks again, Irina.
Thank you so much. I think we can, I know Shakti wants to talk, but while we continue this wonderful conversation, which resonates to me as well, I'm an expat, have been an expat for 30 years. I'm going to share with you the feedback QR code. So while you you take photos of the QR code for the feedback, which I think, yes, you can see now. We can continue the conversation, but please make a screenshot from the QR code, and I'm sure Nada and all our panelists will love to have your feedback about this discussion.
Yes, please.
Akti, you had your hands up.
Yeah, sorry, I know we're running out of time, so if it's, I'll be super brief. I think I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Liesbeth. I think that communication has always felt to me like the missing piece in all the conversations around authenticity, all the conversations around safety, I feel that it starts with communication, and that communication is like the umbrella around all of it. As with everything else, I feel in our lives, to be honest. And having been an expat myself several times, I think that it makes a difference when you communicate where you're coming from, what your intentions are, when there is some clarity. And even if there is a little bit of, which I've personally experienced, some struggle for people to be open to that communication, even because there are some cultures where communication very openly is actually not welcomed. So there are so many cultural adaptations. For me, authenticity doesn't have to mean staying authentic to yourself and stepping into other spaces doesn't mean losing your authenticity. I think there's a way that our authenticity can be more open, can find where we can meet the other people, cultures, whatever it happens to be, in a way that we connect, that we stay authentic, but from maybe a slightly different perspective. It's shifting away from the rigidness that maybe sometimes comes when we think about, I am like this, or this is what I believe. So I know I went on a little bit too much there, but that's.
I just want to add on what you said, Shakti, and because I'm with this, I need to share. I think the key is belonging, because if you and I was expat in Japan many years, which is, you know, you cannot hide that you are a foreigner. When I lived in London, I'm Brazilian. I was in London, I was in Japan, I'm here. But here, you know, when you are in Western community, maybe you pass through, but when you go to Asia, that's a completely different animal. I think the key is belonging. When you are in your core, you are centered in your roots. And you feel the belonging like inside yourself. It's your belonging, your community. Then, for me, at least, I felt free to navigate whatever waters was. But I had the sense of belonging was my pillar.
So what you're saying is that as a kid, like growing up, the belonging was a big part. So you grew up and you were able to belong wherever you would go.
I think I was comfortable belonging to my roots, to where I came from, right? So being comfortable with that allowed me to be comfortable in different places. You know, being my tree, or being happy, or feeling part of being my tree, I could launch to the stars. And that was my experience, and especially not trying to fit in. I think this is when you are in a society that you cannot even read, and you can easily get lost in things. Be okay with that. You know, not have the need to control, because I'm okay being different here. I think at least that was my experience.
Yeah, no, it's.
So go ahead.
Go ahead. What?
I was saying that, I mean, what you are sharing, it does not require you to go out of the country to experience it. It's even from one organization to another, you know, from one community to another. And I tell people I don't know the US because I live in Miami. I know England, I know Sierra Leone, I know Nigeria, I know Lebanon. I do not know the US, but I've been here for 25 years. So culture, you don't have to move much to recognize the symptoms of what could be, but to transform, right? To transform pain. If I can say, of all the things we said and all the things we have talked about, pain is the one that we try to avoid. Pain is the one that we're scared of. And there's no transformation without pain. There's absolutely none, because it's just not the usual.
So does transformation can have a negative connotation, or does transformation is always positive? Can we say that transformation is always positive? No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And sometimes we transform, right? And yet we still carry for years the pain of that moment in time when it happened, right? Like there are moments we just don't forget unless we do psychological work and therapy work to remove it.
Yeah, if we don't understand our pain and sit with our pain and really grasp it, transformation can take that opposite route. It can stay with us. And if we don't heal properly, that transformation may not be positive. It could be pretty negative, and it's hard.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Korrey, to your point, sometimes it's asking the client, are you willing to let go? Because sometimes, I mean, like, have a family member who wants to be in the pain, who has been super creative because of that pain, and who's not willing to let go of that pain. So,
and then we as
are
coaches,
we ready?
Yeah, and then we as coaches being okay with that. If they're not ready, and although we think there could be transformation, it has to be driven from them in order to get that transformation. So we as coaches understanding that, recognizing that, and stepping back if it's not something, you know, that is going to come from them. It's transformation either way is not going to happen unless it comes from them.
Tanya, sorry for your question. It's supposed to end at 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
We're
that's
supposed to be done.
mindful of the time. That's why I know that Judy would like to share with us, each one of you. Sorry, Irina, I'll get back to you. But that Judy would like to close the session by reading us a poem. So I don't know if you're open with that. I think it would lead the rest of the day, being mindful, maybe doing some people, Korrey?
Judy, and where can we find your poems?
Well, some of the poems that I'm reading today are not yet published. So if they get published onto social media, then it actually constrains the way that they can be used. So, but I do have a collection of poems. It's called Intuit, the Poems of an American Woman, and I can put it in there. You can get it on Amazon. Intuit, INTUIT, the Poems of an American Woman. Yeah, so that's my first collection. But this one is not in it. This one, so for just a minute, put yourself on the edge of the landscape on which you stand. And then I'm going to read this poem. It's called On Landscape's Edge. We are on the edge of what is and what could be. The voice inside our heads beats its drums of despairing. Yet, in a surprise response to threat, we somehow remain firm and even rise up, posturing ourselves securely, fast seeking Earth's cover. Its endurability soothes us. It is this reliable embrace and deep knowing wisdom that keeps us from faltering. It throws its weight down and away to hold us fast. Now our head surely rises, even as our feet are firmly held. We gaze forward and we search the landscape ahead for the line between earth and sky, horizon's silver lining mystery. Seeking to quiet tension's voice between the known and the unknown, the solid and the free, the discreet and the indiscriminate, we lift one foot and then the other, navigating our way to horizon's edge. Here we stand determined, yet unsure, intending, yet still too close to retreating. It is here in this conversation between earth and sky that landscape's course comes into full view, and we are poised right on the edge of this unknowing field. Now we detect a whisper breath of courage and the shy brush of hope restoring. Now, like a chorus awaiting its appointed entry, the companioning voices, with us all along, but muted, surround us. Behind and before, above and below, they cry out with unbridled delight. Let go, cross over, and enter and behold the beauty of your own becoming.
I don't know you, but I have goosebumps. Thank you so much, Judy.
You're so welcome. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending and all the speakers. It means a lot and it was super nice to have you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Haddad. Nada, thank you so much.
Invite you to the next sessions that we're having today. But I mean, there are a lot of amazing sessions, so please look at the calendar and register. Thank you so much.
Great job, Nada.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Transforming.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. That was wonderful.